Welcome back. We are talking to anger management specialist and counselor Alistair Moes, who has worked with many men. How many men have you worked with?
Oh,
dozens, hundreds?
Well over 1,000. Last year, about 165, give or take.
And the vast majority have been success stories?
Well, certainly people appreciate it a lot, and when they finish working with me, I always have them fill out an evaluation, and the evaluations are quite remarkable, and I have them often take evaluations to their partners or to their children, and I don't get all of those back, but when I get a 13-year-old filling in one of these evaluations and sending it back to me and saying, I learned that my dad loves his family more than anybody in the world. I'm like,
oh, that feels good.
Yeah.
And in most of these men, are they coming there willingly and voluntarily because there's been some crisis in their lives, or are they being forced to by other family members or employers? What's usually the case?
It is a voluntary program, although sometimes an employer will tell somebody, you have to do something about this, or you're not going to be working here. Or somebody recently received a free anger management ticket from their partner for his birthday.
A birthday present. Here, honey, go get some anger management counseling.
That's right, and
that's love.
And it was a testament to him that he recognized that, yeah, this is something I can do something about, and he was open to the idea.
So this person accepted it.
He accepted it. He went. He said, you know, we all have things to learn, and whenever people come and they take the group, by the end of the 6 sessions, they're always appreciative, and many of them say, oh, I wish I'd done this 10 years ago, or in high school, or some time ago.
Tell us about some of the other techniques you use in the sessions. And I assume that you always do group session, it's not individual?
Well, I meet with lots of people individually as well, but I see more people through the groups. And I don't even refer to what I do as techniques. What I try to do is open up conversations so that we can talk about the things that people really care about, what really matters to them. And one of the ideas behind this is called the gift, with the idea that there are gifts possibly in everybody's life, and the gift is something that people really care about, what really matters to them, important relationships, what inspires them, what makes them happy to be alive. And gifts are only gifts when they move between people. So you can love somebody, but if you never say anything about it, you never do anything to express it, it's not really a gift. It's only a gift when it's visible, or
you have to pass it on.
That you have to pass it on, and somebody has to receive it.
And many men we're so stoic about that. Mm-hmm. What is it about us that makes us do this, have this armor that we won't get these messages, these deep feelings that we have across to our partners and our loved ones?
Well, and I think it's less so today, but certainly even today there are a lot of messages that boys get growing up, that they're not supposed to cry, that they're not supposed to show or have any emotions. The only emotion that they're often allowed to have is anger. And certainly in sports and on the schoolyard, anger can be all right. And so men often grow up feeling nothing but anger.
So we get good at that.
You get good at that, but you end up turning all the other emotions into anger. And anger for many men is much more comfortable than feeling sadness or feeling confused and afraid. And many men don't want to talk about feeling confused and afraid. Yeah. But if you don't allow yourself to feel these other emotions, then it's difficult to mature emotionally. And so one of the things we talk about in the groups is about how to allow yourself to feel these other emotions. And we had a guy in the group last week who came and said, for the first time he felt all this warmth in his chest, and he could feel all this energy in him as he was getting angry. And he just, was aware of that, he noticed it, and then he chose how to respond. That gave him control over his own actions and much more of a feeling of control in the world. And that's from somebody who had not felt a lot of control but had been really reactive repeatedly.
And I want to make it very clear, too, that we keep forgetting about the physical side of anger. We have these issues, and it really affects our body.
It affects our body, it affects our health. And they recently did a study where they had people get angry for 5 minutes. And they measured their immune system response prior to this 5 minutes of anger, and then afterwards, and then continued afterwards. And they found that it took up to 6 hours for somebody's immune system response to get back up to where it was before 5 minutes of being angry. And I don't know about you, but I've been angry for a lot more than 5 minutes.
A lot of people run around being really tight, and we're looking at issues like heart disease, cancer, all of this because of stress.
Yes,
right?
people
Which
that
really
act out, people that act out angrily frequently are much more likely to have heart disease or have a heart attack. And certainly in the course we talk about a lot of the physiology, about the adrenaline and all the other physical changes that happen as we fly into a rage. And if you're doing that, you're just really wearing out your heart and your body a lot quicker.
Now, I could sit and talk about this all day, but we're starting to run out of time, and I really want to get to solutions, like practical things that you give men, and I know you deal with women as well, but solutions that they can use. What kind of things?
Well, and a lot of the solutions come from each person that comes to see me, and I believe that they know at some level it's within them to come up with these solutions, that just having conversations about it is going to help a lot. Some of the things that people find helpful are we do breathing exercises, and that the breath connects the mind with the body and helps people connect with their emotions so that they can feel what they're actually feeling.
So that's back to yoga and meditation techniques. Yes.
Yeah, and men and women are much more open to talking about meditation and yoga and doing different breathing exercises. And we started doing the breathing exercises about 5 years ago. And we were a little hesitant at first, but we tried it out, and we were surprised how many men came back and said, I used that, and it was really helpful. And we continued that and expanded upon that, and more and more men find that if they're breathing and they're connected with themselves before they go into a difficult situation, they're much more likely to keep things at a reasonable level without flying off the handle, so to speak.
Breathing, thinking twice before you act out in anger in some way. Would that be a good technique to use in the car when you're getting really angry and you want to stomp on the gas pedal and the horn at the same time?
That's right, and we actually talk about driving a fair bit in these groups. And certainly some of the men come up with a goal that they want to respond differently, because it's not helping them. And we give out a lot of written information that explains exactly how much harm you're doing to yourself when you're flying off the handle in the car. And some of the men have said, one guy in particular said that his technique with that was, if he left 15 minutes early, then all of a sudden all the people on the road that were driving him crazy didn't seem to be there.
There's a concept for you. Go a little early.
And just being aware of your own response. It's a lot about awareness, and many of the men respond that what they do is stop and think. And if they can give themselves a breath or two to stop and think before they respond, that gives much more of a sense of control over your life, over what you're doing within your life, and has some pretty dramatic effect on some people.
It's very good advice, because we're just angry with ourselves and we're taking it out on other people, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Great advice. You look like you take the advice yourself. You look quite a calm individual. I wish we could talk longer. We're running out of time, but please come back and see us. Alistair Moes Anger counselor, thanks for being with us.
Thanks. More open than guys in their 40s or 50s or 60s.
So the patterns aren't set at that age. It happens a little later in life for most men?
Well, I think the younger generation is much more open to looking at this. They may not be dealing any more effectively right at this point, but they're much more open to the idea of counseling or to looking at different ideas.
And why is that? Is it the media influence? What is it that's making the younger generation more open to this?
I think part of it is the media people are much more used to people talking about difficult topics on TV. They're much more used to, people talking about sexual abuse or, talking about sex in general. And so people are used to talking about more difficult, more challenging ideas, and it's created what I think is opportunities for people to look at these more difficult topics and do something constructive.
This is a good positive sign that men might be more willing to look at this stuff in the future.
Yes.
Okay. I understand you also, for a time, maybe this helped you through university, you bartended, right?
I spent many years, 9 years, bartending and managing bars in Vancouver.
Now, you have to be a good listener to be a bartender, isn't that right?
Well, that's the stereotype. I'm not sure. You have to be.
Were you a good listener?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that helped you get there. So, tell us what kind of situations that you would deal with and the kind of problems you face with these men.
Well, almost any time somebody calls me, something really bad has happened. So usually people come to me and they're dealing with a lot of emotional pain. It's from a relationship that's fallen apart. The worst cases are somebody's kids have been taken away by the ministry. They may have lost their job or had their employer say, if you don't do something, don't come back to work. And so some really powerful emotional threat is around them, or some disaster has recently happened. And while that's bad, it often makes it so that the men are more afraid for things to stay the same than to try something different, like going to see his.
So they're almost forced to change.
Yes.
Because they've hit the wall.
Yes.
Their life is falling apart unless they make some changes within themselves.
Although that doesn't do it for everybody. And sometimes people ask me, they say, how do you work with all these guys? Like they describe them as they must be horrible guys. They've done all these angry, destructive things. And I say, well, the guys that are, typically thought of as really terrible probably wouldn't call me up. They would just continue to blame everything and everybody else around them, and they wouldn't come to me because they wouldn't be open to the fact that they can do something different. They have a responsibility. And when men come to see me, most of the time they recognize, I have to do something different right now if I want things to work out better.
So these are people who the shell is not so solid, that somewhere inside they know what they're doing is wrong and it's hurting others and it's hurting themselves, and they want to change. They just don't know how to do it. Is that right?
They don't know how to do it, and it's like they're preventing themselves from recognizing what really matters to them. And I believe that all the people that come to see me, they already have the answers in them. And we aren't talking about rocket science here. Most of them know what they are, what the answers are, but they haven't had an opportunity to really talk about it so that these things can come out. So we end up talking about different ideas. We talk about things like courage. If you're going to take a risk and try doing things differently, and it's established that they all agree they have to try things differently, they have to take a risk. So what is courage? How often are guys going to sit around and talk about something like that? In the group or meeting with me individually, they can have these conversations, and it seems to make a big difference. They can talk about the impact of their actions on their partner, on their children, on themselves. And everybody loses. When there is...
So wait a minute, what do you mean by everybody loses?
When there's, I talk about it as tragedy. When people are being abusive or hurtful to each other in the home, nobody wins.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody ever gains anything out of it. All the relationships, possibilities are diminished. They can see less things, and everybody's worse off.
Well, listen, we're going to get more into what you do and some of the solutions and the techniques you use, but first we're going to take this break. We'll be right back with Alistair Moes. Stay with us.